This whole situation with the immigrants has got me thinking. Not the situation with immigrants, but the way that this situation is giving me an opportunity to look at how the different content that we're each viewing contributes towards planting the seeds in our mind of thought forms and ideas that then we sort of internalize and take root as beliefs. And I've noticed that it happens when I'm scrolling through and just see headlines of articles. And then when I really dig into the article to look for the substantive proof of the thing that this article is claiming, oftentimes that proof is not as steadfast or convincing as was first believed by the particular headline. And so looking at the way that I have been getting the messaging through the videos and the algorithms that have been being fed to me with the on YouTube in particular, the messaging that I've been getting about the migrants is that, they're dangerous and that many of them are here from prisons, and those that are not are here for other reasons, like and all of them that are here are getting a lot of money, more money than most Americans are getting. So that's the messaging on one side. And then on the other side, the messaging is, wow, we've had an influx of new workers and they've been really good for the community, and the community really loves the diversity and all of the richness and the boost in the economy that having more people brings. And so people are getting different stories on different on the same topic, and they don't see each other's stories. So oftentimes when I'm scrolling online, I see people who are really strongly on one side say, oh, I just can't even imagine, like, these people, how can they think that? How can anybody support this person? They must be such an idiot. And both sides do it. I mean, both sides do it completely, and they both are kind of savage. Well, it depends on the person speaking, right? Some people are savage and some people are more tactful and non-violent in their communication and reporting. But it got me thinking about the idea of programming in general, because my journey has really focused and centered around breaking free of programming, which means that the thoughts that are in my mind, I'm having awareness of them. And when, it's easy for us to see an image or to hear a phrase repeated over and over, and it becomes a thought form that then can take life. So the more that we think about something, the more that we see it, the more that we reinforce that, we are literally giving it our energy, our focus, our awareness. And then those are the things that and if there's a collective of people doing that, say, millions of people all energizing a thought form in one direction or another, there's a lot of power. And I think that politics uses this. It really helps me, and I get sucked in, and this is why, like, I start to get sucked in, and then I feel myself getting sucked in, and I pull back, and it's like, wait, what's happening? And this is also why I take a conscious effort to surround myself with people who think in a variety of different ways that I do. And so if I feel like recently I was sort of feeling like I wanted to intentionally only have conversations with people that I thought would be sympathetic to what I wanted to talk about. And then I realized that it wasn't healthy for me, for what I am trying to accomplish in my growth and development as a human being. And so I have been challenging myself to look at things outside of what the norm is that I've been seeing. And it's fascinating how much resistance I had to that, which is really weird, because why would I have an allegiance to an idea that isn't even mine? I don't even believe all of the things that I'm seeing. I believe that maybe elements of stories are true, and then things get sort of misrepresented to make things appear one way or another. And I think that the truth is very often somewhere in the middle. But this idea of thought forms is something that I really started to explore when I was at the temple, and we would sing these songs, these chants, these prayers. And oftentimes in the context of the Hindu temple that I was at, there would be a visual, some way to sort of express the deity or the energy or the intention. So this temple had a murti. A murti is basically a statue, and it was an image of a particular being. And so this one in particular was a monkey. Yep, a monkey. And he's Hanuman, and he's called the monkey god. Now, this stories of Hanuman or a monkey king or a monkey god with, sort of like supernatural abilities are actually kind of ancient. And so whatever you might think about a monkey god, it's a thought form that many people have energized. And what I mean by that is people go and they bring their prayers to Hanuman and they lay them, at the altar, and people will sit and sing and chant for hours and hours and hours and hours. We have festivals where we'll sing for 24 hours straight, and there are festivals that happen quarterly, roughly quarterly, and they have different focuses, intentions, but you're sitting in there for a long time as a group of people holding space and connecting with divine energy, and also energizing that particular thought form, the thought form of Hanuman. And so if there's people all over the world that are doing this, and if there have been people all over the world doing this for generations and generations, and they have specific sounds that they sing or they pray or they chant, and those sounds affect the body in a particular way, then that's a thought form. And that's kind of how I see the Hindu gods and goddesses and deities and symbols, as thought forms that we can sort of tap into. And I think that is how our mind works in general. We are visual, and we sort of like attach meanings, ideas, memories, emotions to pictures in our mind. And sometimes we can, see a picture in our mind, and someone else might also see a picture in their mind. And I've been seeing it happen in some of the shows that I've been watching as well. I don't often watch shows, but in the last few weeks I've been getting, we watched some shows, we've been watching some shows, and there's one that I've been watching with my roommate called The Magicians. And in this show, there's a group of people, they're awakening into their magical powers. It's kind of exhilarating, confusing, sometimes scary. And this one particular person, she ends up, as her magic awakens, she isn't able to study with the school that everyone else is at. So she ends up finding alternative ways of connecting and getting into sort of some darker energetic areas. And at a certain point, she ends up connecting with the goddess, and they refer to the goddess, and then they start using the symbol of Guadalupe in the movie. And throughout the course of many episodes, we start to feel like this beautiful connection, and I have a connection with Guadalupe. She's a deity that I learned about when I lived in New Mexico, and I lived there for 9 years, and they talked. I had a good friend, a beautiful, beautiful person who just, Guadalupe was her life. Her whole life was an expression of that particular deity. And Guadalupe was the one who came to this particular person, and at the time that the Aztecs were slaughtering the South Americans. In the book that I read about her, it said that, the streets were running with blood. And she came because the Aztecs refused to convert to Catholicism. And I don't remember what I just said, but I think it was the Spanish, actually, that were there slaughtering the Aztecs. And so Guadalupe, her image was a way to bring peace, because it was a bridge, because the Aztecs refused to convert to Catholicism. And the image, this book that I read sort of like broke down the symbolism of the image. And so it had an Aztec meaning, because the symbols were a way of communicating in their language of signs and symbols and belief system. And also it had a very specific meaning to the Catholic Church, because there was a miracle that happened. Juan Diego, the person that she appeared to, she gave him fresh roses in the middle, I think it was winter, and and so she said, I want a shrine to be built to me in this place. A shrine was built, and because the Aztecs went to worship there, to her throne, to her shrine, the Catholics considered it to be like, okay, this is a Catholic shrine, they're coming here, they converted, and it actually was the bridge through the languages and the religions that actually ended the war of that particular area and the bloodshed and violence. And so it is a powerful symbol. It is a powerful thought form. And I've been disturbed by this show. See, I try not to take it too seriously, because I'm like this. I see this stuff everywhere when I'm watching movies. And so really sometimes I have to just like stop thinking about it and just be like, okay, I'm going to enjoy the show. But this one with the Guadalupe, it disturbed me, because I connect with her, because I feel a particular connection with that energy, deity, thought form, whatever you want to call it. And I have a picture of Guadalupe in my house. And we sing sometimes, and so I'll put her, as one of the images that I'm contemplating while I'm singing. And so in this show, they're following the Guadalupe, and then this character has what she thinks is a divine encounter, and then sets up a group of people, and they're going to do this ritual to her to bring her to earth, because they want to heal, and they want the power to heal, and they want to do good, because they've all experienced a lot of suffering. And so they do this ritual, they cast this spell, they invite this deity into their realm, and it's a demon, and it murders everybody except the main character, and then eats the heart of one of them. It's super graphic and it's super intense, and then he ends up committing SA against this character. And he's like a demon, a god. He has whatever powers. And then the show goes on. And it was very, like, for me, it was just, I don't watch horror a lot because it really affects me. But then a couple days after that, we sat down to sing, a small group of us. And when we did, when I went to go close my eyes and sink into what's always there for me now, because I've spent years and years and years, I just close my eyes and I just sink into this space of just, there was actually a bit of a block and I closed my eyes, and what I saw was that gruesome scene. Because the implication of the show, it's great plot, it's great horror, I don't want to take away from the entertainment value of it, but I can't help but see the other part, the deeper part, which is that there is now a subconscious seed planted in my mind there, and in the minds of other people who watch this, who are, I'm sure nobody's thinking about this. I'm the only crazy person that thinks about stuff like this. And now there's this part of me that's like afraid to connect to the divine through the song, because, and you guys, you have, those of you who don't know me have to understand that I have spent 15 years of my life in spiritual practice, meditation, chanting, singing, connecting. Like, this is, it's like breathing for me. And so I noticed, like, and I really was like, wow, that was, whether intentional or not, I'm not claiming this is some dark plot of the media. I'm just saying that that the things that we see, the things that we're exposed to, the things that we allow our mind to take in, influence us whether we realize it or not. So, I know that's not real. I know it's just a show. I know that, like, it shouldn't matter what I saw, and yet still it affects me. And so in the same way, then it affects me when I see these YouTube videos or these stories or these articles about migrants, this group of people who's come here. And so, the stories are, talking about all the money that's being spent, all the crime all the things that are happening, all the bad things that are going to happen because these people are here. Oh, and also your pets are not safe, right? And look, whether those things are factually true or not, those types of thought forms are not helpful to us as humans in connecting with each other. If the point of this human experience is to connect with each other, then that's what we do. And when something unexpected happens, like suddenly in the course of 5 years, the demographic of your community has changed, I'm sure that's abrupt and unexpected, and you didn't necessarily consent to it. And there is definitely cause for bringing attention to, hey, this is the experience that we're having and it's not working, so we need a different system now to organize what's happening. But to go from that to then having rhetoric where people are like acting without kindness towards other human beings, it seems like failing some kind of test. I don't think the point, I understand that in order to have a boundary, sometimes we have to have a clumsy boundary, and that can feel aggressive when we're not good at having boundaries. But I think that as we grow in our ability to have boundaries, as we grow in our ability and our strength to say, actually, no, that's not working for me, we need to do something different, I am able to find a way to articulate my boundary with kindness. And so that's my thought for one side. And just really taking a moment to acknowledge that the thought forms affect me, and they have affected me. And now I'm like delighted that I'm actually starting to kind of start to see it. I'm mulling it over. I'm trying to put my finger on like where or how and what do I really think about this issue. And it's like when we watch movies and there's this mob that wants to stone somebody and they're all just like, rah, kill him. And maybe they were just like really honoring this character, 3 scenes earlier. I just think that we get caught up in these these energized thought forms, and I think politicians use it. They do. So at this point, Trump is a meme. At this point, Harris is a meme. At this point, they're eating the cats is a meme. And all of these things, right? So you've got the hot button issues. Abortion, at this point, I suppose instead of saying meme, I could say archetype, but I think meme is more accurate because it's not distilled to the sort of purest form of that thought form. And we get sort of pushed into, which one are you? Are you Trump or Kamala? Which one are you? Left or right? Which one are you? Far right? Oh, far left? Progressive? I mean, are you communist? Are you fascist? What are you? I don't want to be in those boxes. I want to be a human, and I want to be able to see the nuance of the situation. And for me, as somebody who is a traveler, for many years of my life, I traveled, and in my travels, before I had my daughter and then after I had my daughter, I had so many different experiences, and every single time I was met with kindness. I was met with, it felt like magic. So many amazing things, because people are kind and people are good. And even people who have moments of being angry, aggressive, violent, whatever, if you treat them like a human being and you're just having a real conversation person to person, 99% of the world is not going to be violent. If somebody is having a serious personal issue on a particular drug, or maybe a really serious mental illness, sure, that there can be a circumstance for sort of unprovoked violence. But oftentimes in relating to people, when you're kind to people, they're kind to you. And I see populations of people, and what's fascinating is, depending on the state that you're looking at, these are different populations of people from completely different countries with completely different cultures and completely different stories, except that some parts of the story may be similar, and in some cases different languages, but mostly one. But we have an opportunity as humans to be present with people in the circumstance they're having. And there is certainly appropriate time for saying in a governmental conversation, like, hey, I have a difference of opinion about where our tax dollars should go, or things like that. But to just say, we don't want you here, go home. I was watching a video today, and there was a storm happening, and there were many migrants who were sleeping outside, and so they cleared out a school for these people to sleep in for a few days while the storm passed by. And this mother was standing outside the school screaming at these people as they were walking in, who most of them probably didn't speak English, and she's screaming at them, "Oh, are you proud of yourself? My son deserves school. My son deserves school, and you're here and you're getting it all for free." And she's shouting this at these women and children and fathers and people walking into this space to seek shelter. And it was kind of stomach churning to think that there is a person that is so angry that she would project that sort of awful anger towards these people who are also in a very difficult situation. And like, your kids can go without school for a couple days. I understand your anger. I understand your frustration, and also like direct it at the people who are responsible for the situation. And they're probably also trying to do the best they can. I think everybody's trying to do the best they can. And I think if we can find a way to bust through the algorithms, and I'm not sure what way that would be, if it means creating a particular social media app that maybe doesn't use algorithms, but then how would you wade through the massive information? I'm not sure what the answer is, but facilitating these conversations is important, because then we can start to have real conversations about, okay, how do we create solutions? One thing I was looking at is there's this situation where food was being donated, and then a lot of it was getting wasted because they didn't have a proper distribution center or system for distributing the food. And so then they decided to do the cash cards for people so that they could use cash to buy food. But then they're only allowed to use it for food and only at bodegas. So maybe it means that there's a whole industry of food production that can be created to make healthy, available food for families that can be purchased at bodegas. I mean, just ideas, but these are the kinds of ways of thinking. It's like change has happened to our country, and it may have happened while we all had our heads up our butts and we didn't even notice it happened, and now it's here, but it's here and we're here and we're humans. So how are we going to choose to respond to this situation? And depending on who gets elected, the situation may look different in a few years. But, you know, I have a very good friend who she was a very good friend of mine in high school, and she married somebody who had been here for many years and did not have papers. Technically, he was illegal when he came. He overstayed his visa, then he started a business. He was a hardworking, contributing member of his community. She married him. And years ago, when there was that mass sort of deportation effort, he was forced to go back to Brazil. And he was separated from his family for it was a while. It was over a year before things were able to be approved to where he could come back to the United States, even though he was married, and my friend they're still married. They love each other very much. And so we have to be careful when we say that we want certain things, because we have to be very clear about exactly what we want. And yeah, so thought forms, and how are they affecting us? And how, if we know that it's happening, then can we maybe act as better filters and take in information with sort of like the reminder that it's political theater, and the things happening are very real, right? Politics is important, but the way that it's being presented to us, the way that I think that's theater. So thanks for coming along for the conversation. I plan to have a lot more conversations about thought forms and things. It's something that I think about kind of constantly.